In this video, we're going to have a detailed look at the Slideshow component. Now, the Slideshow component is a way for you to add messaging, whether it be branding, instructions, or any other detail, to your InkSoft powered web store. Now, here on screen, you can see an example of a Slideshow component that's in action. So here we have two slides, and notice how those slides animate between the two slides. So again, this is a great way to display any kind of messaging, whether it be instructions, whether it be branding, whether it be a call to action, like maybe you're featuring a special product. So let's dive in now and talk about the details for taking full advantage of the Slideshow component. Now, of course, what you're going to do is log in, and you're going to navigate to the desired online store that you wish to add this component to. We'll toggle the edit mode. And of course, we will go to the component library, which is the blue icon at the very bottom right corner. And when you make that selection, this is going to bring up the browser for the component library. From the top dropdown, you can select Slideshow. Now, once I select Slideshow, here you're going to see a preview of the Slideshow. Currently, there's one layout available, but as you know, many of the components in the InkSoft online store platform come in multiple layouts, which is unique ways of presenting the same component. So in the future, there may be additional Slideshow layouts. So what I can do is select layout number 1, and that would add the component to my online store. And if you add a new component, it's always added right above the footer. So here, of course, I can choose to control the order in which that Slideshow displays. So using the up arrow, I can adjust the position of that Slideshow. And I can, of course, use the down arrow to move the sort order down. Now, you can always click Edit on that Slideshow component, which will bring up the Slideshow Edit function that's available on the left-hand panel. Now, you also have the ability to remove the Slideshow by clicking the red trash can icon, which will allow you to remove the Slideshow. Now, I will point out that it is possible to add more than one Slideshow component per store. However, make certain that you're using that with intent, because with a Slideshow component, you can add unlimited slides. So it might be unnecessary to add more than one, but it is an option. All right, so here is the existing Slideshow that I've already configured for this example. So what I'm going to do is click Edit, and again, that's going to invoke the Slideshow details on the left-hand panel. So let's talk about these controls. So first and foremost, you'll notice the ability to establish a background color. And you can do that by using the logo colors, and that's a result of uploading a logo in the store creation process or once the store has been created. And what InkSoft does is sample the colors from that particular logo and gives you a palette. So it's a quick way to establish primary, secondary, tertiary, and complementary colors. But of course, you can use the color selector to choose a specific color. Now, that's optional. You do not have to have a background color, but that's the way you would establish it. Now, next we have animation type. And you've been noticing on screen, you can see that Slideshow animate from left to right, and that's sliding the Slideshow to advance. Now, there's two options. The default is slide. However, you can choose a fade animation. Now, as the name might imply, that's going to fade subtly between the between the slides rather. Now, the next option we have here is rotational interval. By default, this is set to 6 seconds, and that's a 6-second delay between slides. However, you can choose to add more time to that delay or lessen the time. I will point out that if you choose and set this to 0, that will keep the first slide in the sort order kind of anchored on screen. So let's say that you have a primary message that you want to be anchored, but maybe you have some subsequent, maybe less important messaging that you want to make available, but you're going to have your clients click through using the navigation arrows. So you'll notice on this Slideshow itself, your customers can click the left or the right arrow to advance the slide, meaning to rotate it to the next slide. So again, setting it to 0 means the first slide in the sort order will be anchored to screen. However, if you have subsequent slides, customers can click through those. Now, let's talk about slides. Now, when you add a new Slideshow component, we're automatically going to add 2 placeholder slides that you can edit, you can delete. So here, you'll see your slides listed. And I want to point out that you can add unlimited slides. So first and foremost, if I click Add Slide, that's going to introduce a new slide to this configuration. Now, of course, I can remove a slide. So if you scroll to the bottom of a slide, you can click Delete, and that's going to go ahead and remove that from the screen. All right, so if I go ahead and click on a slide that already exists, that's going to extend all of the slide controls for that particular slide. Now the first option, we have the ability to upload a background image. Now the recommended size for this is 1200 by 500. So if you're working in your graphic design software, make sure to create your artboard or your workspace as 1200 by 500 pixels in dimension, and that's going to allow you to configure a background image. Now we'll point out that this is really suitable for a background image only, and I would hesitate to put in actual or text or any kind of text messaging on the actual image, because the way we've developed these slides is you're actually going to use real text that's going to display on top of a background color or the background image. And the value of that is search engine optimization, so search engines can actually see that content as actual HTML text, but it's also meant to be responsive. So as a customer happens upon your store on an iPhone or a tablet or a mobile device, that actual text will format as you can see on screen now. So again, treat that a background image as just that, a subtle texture or a way to add some visual interest or branding, but make sure to use the actual heading and subheading text, and we're going to jump into that in just a moment. Now the last thing I want to share with you is the ability to increase the contrast. So here you have a slider that allows you to add a slight gradient effect to a banner. Now let me change the background color, and this will become more obvious when we have a unique color here. So here we have the increased contrast enabled. Notice if I disable it, what happens? So again, it's pretty subtle, but I'm going to go ahead and click increase contrast. You can see a slight little gradient effect has been added. And that just really makes that slide pop off the page, gives it a unique texture and effect, and brings a little visual interest. So I'll go back and change this back to a dark color just as a point of comparison here. So what we're going to do is make our way down. So for heading, that's going to be the topmost text that displays here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the heading. And you can see you're going to see live updates as you configure your slide. So if I reintroduce the heading, you can see how that's now added back to the slide. Now your subheading is going to be the small text right below the main text. So think of this as title, description. You don't have to use the subheading. So if you just want a simple call to action and simple messaging, you can choose to not use the subheading. So that's what you get when you add both heading and subheading. Now let's move down to button text. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the button text that I've added for this example. So as soon as I start to type in text like click here, you can see that button automatically applies. Then you can choose to link that button. So maybe you're going to promote a specific product on the web store. Let's say that you have 6, but you really want a call to action for one product that might be on sale or might be the official garment for that particular campaign or event. You can choose to link directly to the product detail page. And of course, you can do that by clicking on the product and copying the URL for that specific product to then associate to that button. But I will also point out, if you do not add button text, you'll notice that if you do add a link with no button text, as this little message displays here, the entire slide will be clickable. So again, if you do not add button text, but you do associate a link, that entire slide, so any surface of that slide, if it's clicked, is going to go to the associated link. So I will point that out. That's a simple way to redirect customers to either an internal or external link of your choosing. Now, as we navigate right below, we have text position, so I can choose to align left, and you see that preview on screen. I can center justify or right justify. Now, using these controls, that might influence your background image. Maybe you want to have a mascot located in this bottom left region, and then you're going to have a background that has an opacity. Make sure to consider how you're going to position your text, because that could directly influence your background image. All right, so that's really all you need to know for configuring a slide. Now, of course, if you click the slide, it's going to roll back up. So I can roll down and roll up simply by clicking on the slide. I'll also mention that you can drag and drop. So if I want the first slide to be, let's say the slide that's going to have the background image, I can choose to drag and drop to rearrange. So if you have uploaded an image, as you can see from the slide that's on screen now, you'll see a preview of that background image. And of course, I have the ability to remove the image, in which case, if I click remove, I'll have the ability to replace and upload a new image. And again, you can configure all of your text messaging and choose to center, left, justify any of your text. So that has been a summary of the slideshow component. If you have any questions or you need any assistance, certainly reach out, as always, to the InkSoft Success Squad. We'd be happy to give you any help that you need.